Well, you've already seen our review of the EQS on the Autocar India channel. And now you're going to see the review of the EQB, which will be the next EV from Mercedes that's headed to India, probably before the end of this year. We're not sure of the variants, but it's likely to be the 300 with the 7-seater configuration, and that really is the USP.
It will be the first 7-seater EV in the country. What does it drive like? How much space does it have? What's the range? Well, I'll tell you all of that in this video. Do remember to hit the like button and subscribe when you're done watching. The EQB is the electrified version of the GLB, which is also coming to India. To put it into perspective, it's roughly as long and as wide as a Hector, but its wheelbase is larger, meaning a roomy interior. Up front, there is the typical blackened out area in place of a grille, but this one has two grooves that run right across and the big logo that sits in the center.
The air intake area is below, and you see a lot of chrome surround on the blackened off area, chrome right underneath, underlining the car, and of course you see that LED bar that runs from lamp to lamp, which has now become typical of the EVs of Mercedes-Benz. And then coming round to the side, you see it sits on 20-inch wheels.
The alloys have a nice aerodynamic design, and it's for efficiency. What you see at the back is an EQB logo, and if you step further back and view the side profile, you see that it has a nice upright stance with a lot of vertical lines that make it look very SUV. There is chrome that underlines the bottom of the doors, you've got chrome surround on the windows and the roof rail, so it has a lot of SUV elements, including nice chunky door handles. Further back on the side, there is the charging port too.
So that's the charging port on the side. And then coming round to the rear, you see the tail lamps that kind of wrap around. They've got an interesting three-part element on both the wraparound side and on the central piece on the tailgate. And again, the tailgate has that LED bar, which is typical of the EVs. Now that we're around at the back here, let's take a look at the boot space. So it's quite a large boot, but this is the 5-seater version. In India, we will be getting the 7-seater version, so it remains to be seen as to how much space you really get with all 7 seats up. But the tech specs that I have at the moment say you will have around 465 liters to about 1620 liters in the 7-seater version as well. And I'm guessing 465 liters would mean you'd have to have the last row flipped down as well. So it looks like a reasonable amount of space. Let's flip these seats down. And I'll do the other side as well. Yep. So loads of room for luggage in case you need to move your house. On the inside, this looks very much like any conventional car would look. It's not, very futuristic and EV, like say something like the Hyundai Ioniq, which is, it's on a born electric platform. People who've driven the GLC will find a lot of familiar things over here. You have the older MBUX. It's a single pane, but it's not like what we saw in the EQS, which was like, wow. Of course, this is a compact car and it's much smaller, so it's going to be different. You have rotary vents, which are quite nice, and they have an interesting rose gold color on the inside. There's chunky aluminium elements like bars which run right across the dash. You see them on the door handles as well. So it's this aluminium finish which looks quite rich and nice. It's on the steering wheel as well. Of course, your MBUX system has all the controls that's one used to. The digital dials are nice and crisp and clean and clear. So all the graphics are really great. Around the cabin, you have a fair amount of storage spaces. You have the wireless charging pad, which I can see right here. You have cup holders in the center. Of course, you have the scribble pad and your host of controls, shortcuts that are right here in the center of the console. There's a nice deep bin here. You have USB ports, which are back here. Do I see USB? Yes, there is a USB-C port there as well. So, and storage, in fact, a nice big bin in the door for storage space as well. So practicality wise, big glove box too, and there's a nice little shelf in the glove box for your phone over there. So yeah, practicality wise, there is ample storage around this cabin, and you sit nice and high. You get a good commanding view of the road. Glass area is nice and big, so yeah, it feels good on the inside. And of course, this is a Mercedes. Quality is top class. And like I said earlier, this is not as futuristic as you know, the EVs we're seeing nowadays, and that's not a bad thing necessarily, because you know, there's not too much touch while the screens are touch and where you need them, and it's easy access, but there are a lot of physical buttons in here as well. Things like volume control, the aircon controls, and even on the steering wheel, while there is that touchpad like the telephones of today, there is also physical buttons for volume and the other controls, which is something I really like because I like that tactile feeling. So back seat of the EQB, now of course this is an EV, so you know, batteries are under the floorboard, and distance between the seat base and the floor is less, so it is quite knees up even for a short person like me, so taller people will find it even more so. The seat base isn't too long either, so yeah, in that sense it isn't the most comfortable. But honestly, it isn't bad either because you get loads of leg room, knee room is ample, and there's enough space to stretch your feet out under the seat, so you can get pretty comfortable back here. Window area is nice and large, so, and you know, it's below your shoulder line, so it feels quite open and airy. It's not too wide, but there still is enough room for a third passenger. Let me get in the middle and show you. Yeah, my feet can even fit up here because the floorboard's quite flattish. There is a small bit of tunnel up here, which I'm guessing is for wiring, but there's enough space for my feet. The console doesn't come too far back into the rear. So yeah, you can get 3 in the back of the EQB as well.
With a quick look around the car, I set off.
Now what else is really good is refinement, and that's something you always get in an EV with no engine to make noise, the electric motor being silent. The cabin itself is quite well insulated as well, so you're pretty much cut off from all sounds on the outside.
The EQB has a 66.5 kilowatt-hour battery. The 350 4MATIC puts out 282 HP and 520 Nm of torque, and the 300 puts out 228 HP and 390 Nm of torque. The 300 that will come to India gets to the 100 mark in 8 seconds, but the 350 that I was driving has a claimed figure of 6.2 seconds to the 100 mark.
You put your foot down, and it's not that whack of power of instant torque, and it's delivered in a measured manner, but it's really quick. I get up to 120 in just a flash.
In the 4MATIC versions, the power demand between the front and rear axles is intelligently regulated 100 times per second, depending on the driving situation. The Mercedes EQ philosophy is to optimize consumption by using the rear electric motor as often as possible, while the asynchronous motor at the front axle generates only minimum drag losses in partial load operations.
Now it is a high-riding car, being an SUV, but with the lower center of gravity, with the batteries being under the floorboard, even on these fast sweepers, and I'm going at a pretty good clip here in Germany on the Autobahn, it feels stable and planted and gives you a lot of confidence.
At home or at public charging stations, the EQB can be conveniently charged at up to 11 kilowatts and the charge time is roughly 6 hours. The EQB can also charge at up to 100 kilowatts and then the charging time is just over 30 minutes from 10 to 80%. The WLTP range is 419 kilometers for both variants.
Now as far as range goes, in the real world, let's put it this way, I've done about 163 kilometers earlier on in the morning. I still have around 243 range, so just over 400 kilometers, which is really good considering I've been doing a really good nick here, about 120 kilometers steady for a long time out on the Autobahn. And even earlier in the morning we were going up and down, accelerating, decelerating for our shoot, so I'd have to say that this real world range is pretty good.
With the driving done, I handed the wheel over to Hormuz and hopped into the back seat for a bit.
So I already told you about the space that's there in the back seat and what the features are that you get. And now for the ride quality, which is fairly good. It isolates the passengers well enough, but there is an underlying firmness to this ride.
That said, the suspension is almost always retuned for India, so I will reserve final comment on ride quality till it is tested there.
And there are various drive modes, so you can switch it between comfort and sport, and comfort obviously gives you the better ride quality.
The EQB is not as path-breaking as the Born Electric EQS and tilts more towards practicality than delivering a knockout wow punch. The trump card will be its extra row of seats, which will appeal to families who want that extra bit of versatility but still very much want an EV.